Well, howdy there, folks. It's another beautiful day out here on the California coast. The sun is shining and it's getting to be about, 80 degrees now these days. So I'm back on Nickle again and just decided we'll probably run through the checklist so far and then add in the next new steps as we need them. So first thing you always want to check after you get on, lateral flexion. And if they feel like they're not with you, you can ask for that disengage right away. That way you can get their mind starting to come your direction. Check the right bend, right leg back. And you feel, actually, as you start to ask those hips to move around, he'll start to put himself, there you go, start to wake up a little bit, put himself in a better position. Good. And you're also checking that he can stay soft and slow down after you ask him to move his hips. Perfect. You do your little checks and then it's not time to move off. If you're pretty sure your horse can walk, then it's good to just break off into the trot, because that's where you're going to get a little more work done and the real warm-up starts. And then just check. Can he put the brakes on and get soft and round? Oop, check a little more. And sometimes if you're wearing spurs and your horse is used to that, you can come in with your rope a little bit so that you can feel a little more effort in there. Good. Check the right side. That's a little nicer. Good. And then try. Oh. So there he kind of went off before I was ready. So we'll bend around. Make sure we're in control here. Then look for our walk. That's a nice amount of energy there. Then we'll look for our trot, and we can add in a little steering. And when you're using this first 4 fundamentals as a checklist, you can add in number 5 and start playing around and just seeing, well, what happens when you slide down one rein? Does your horse get soft and follow their nose? Or do they start to stick their head up in the air? Depends on the horse. Some find relaxation in being guided. Others get a little bit nervous about being constrained. So you just got to feel your guy out. But after he relaxes, after you get rhythm, relaxation, and impulsion, then you're looking for straightness. So we just started working into a figure 8 here, which would be a good exercise to do. Or you could expand that into a 4-leaf clover. Right there, you saw him start to get distracted, so I could tip his nose a little more and ask him for an overturn, and then see if he can ride across the diagonal. Then now would be a good time to check that crosshairs then on the left side. There we go. Each time, just slide down your rein to give him the, There, opportunity to respond before you hit the end of your rope. And then right here at the end, you could try a point to point. Ride straight for the wall and then relax. Let your horse stay straight. And then for him, I just wait until he gets soft in his back up, because he's sort of had his neck upside down there. Good. So now we've got our lateral flexion, we've got our steering. We just checked our back up a little bit. We could do that again. Nice. If our backup is at that point, then we're ready to move on to teaching the side pass, or working on reminding your horse of the side pass, depending on what we're looking at here. So the first thing I like to do when I'm working on lateral motion is I like to have a natural barrier, like a fence or a wall. A solid wall like this is really nice. That way I can just practice tipping their nose towards it and then letting them settle. And this wall is particularly interesting. So then we'll ride off the other direction. No big deal. And we'll tip his nose towards the wall, slide our leg back, and take a disengaged step until he faces the wall. Now I'm not so, it's not the best thing in the world that he's nibbling on top of the fence that we're working on, but that's not the worst thing either. You know, he's just getting used to it, or he's just feeling things out. So then we'll get his attention back, walk again. You walk down your fence line and then tip your horse's nose towards the wall and ask the hips to get lined up. Do you see what happened just there? To get lined up, he took about 2 steps, even though he's real keen on actually keeping his nose facing towards the fence. So the more I'm playing with this, this is not a bad way of getting your horse interested in facing the fence. Just put some grass on it. So let's walk off again. And look for him to disengage his hips and face the wall. There, did you see he took that side pass step? So when you're first doing this, you just do it at a walk. And all you're doing is keeping your horse facing the wall. There. And then we could do a backup. That way he's a little more focused. But, and all you're looking for is one step at first. You're just going at a walk and carrying that momentum till he gives you one step sideways. After a while, your horse gets pretty comfortable with that. You can try and keep the momentum going from the walk, or you can carry it in at the trot. So let's make a circle here. And we'll carry a little more momentum in. Just tip his nose towards the wall, right leg back. And there, you take a couple of steps without actually having to pull back on your horse. Just by virtue of them having to balance out, you take about 3 or 4 side pass steps. Let's try, watch your nose. Walk off again. This beautiful thing about fences and walls is they're a little bit of a natural barrier. So if you push on them, they'll push back. So we'll come right along this wall again. And he knows kind of the game, so we'll tip his nose towards the wall, leg back, and ask the hips to catch up. And that would be about your first way of getting your horse to take a couple of side pass steps. that's not, you know, the most graceful way by any means, but if you're starting a young horse, or if you've got a horse with a lot of forward momentum, that's a good way. It's kind of like horse judo. You can take advantage of that forward momentum, and instead of trying to shut it down, you can put it to your advantage. Good boy. So after a while, your horse gains some pretty good hip control and can start to side pass down the rail with pretty little effort. And you can come up over your tree and ask them to step their hips back down the other direction. And think about their feet instead of the grass. There you go. That's why we want to work on the backup before we work on the side pass, though. Is your horse gets through these first two side pass steps fairly quickly. They're able to line out and move laterally. So then you need to be able to have a good backup in order to hold your horse in place. So when they're off of the fence. So for instance, if you close the door right in front of you and then slide your leg back just like you were on the fence, the better your backup is, the less you have to pull and the lighter your horse feels when they're moving laterally. Let's try that on the other side. Slide a leg back nice and light. And then we could even slow that forward momentum down more as we come to find the rail. There. And you see how that moves more laterally. Then you can finish with a backup. Good. So the process of after you get your backup from the at least the walk and the standstill, then you can start working on the side pass on the wall. Once you have your side pass on the wall down, you need to definitely be able to back up from a trot. So, and if you can back up from a trot, then you can stop enough forward motion to be able to move your horse sideways off the rail. There you go. Good boy. Another prerequisite for being able to move your horse laterally in the arena is developing your inside leg cue. So for the side pass, you're really using an outside leg. When you're asking your horse to move over, your leg is back and you're asking that hip to step over so that you're going almost completely sideways. But the real motion of a side pass, if you watch it, like right here, is the shoulder step over and the hip step over. So if you're able to develop an inside leg that works well on the front of the girth, or on the with a forward leg, as I would call it, then you're 10 times more likely to get a really nice side pass. So how would you start to teach the inside leg? Well, the inside leg, let's see. So how would you start to teach the inside leg? The first step I would take is ask my horse to ride a circle. That way they're straight and they're following their nose. Then I'd start to squeeze, in this case with my left leg, and the moment I felt him take a step over, and it doesn't have to be that good, I release everything and we ride forward and out again. Then you can take a little contact, squeeze with that inside leg again, and there you see how he steps out sideways away from himself. So if you were riding a circle, your inside leg can make your circle larger. Just like if I were to then swap to my outside leg, we could make that a lot smaller. Let's change the bend again. Try our inside leg on this side. There we go. So, and he steps out pretty well. I'll show you this again on dime, where we'll be teaching him more of these steps. But just to get an idea of the progression that you want to go through is, so you want to be teaching the backup first, then you want to work on the side pass and the inside leg kind of interchangeably for a little while. They're two good exercises to switch between. In fact, there's an old dressage trainer that says a horse travels most easily in the opposite direction of his nose. So a side pass, when you start out, your horse, let me tip him this way. A side pass when you start out, your horse's nose is tipped, say, if I'm asking him to go this way, it's tipped just a little to the left. Same with the inside leg, but the shoulders are leading quite a bit more. Do you see that? Let's change. I'll go inside leg on the left, or with my right leg here. And you see how the shoulders are leading? And hold on, we'll wait for the camera to catch up again. So, on the right side, here's your circle. Then you look for maybe your inside leg, where your shoulder is traveling out. And then if I slide my leg back, then we're going with the side pass. And necessarily, you see how he loses a little energy there, but he also has to straighten his neck out just a little bit. That's really the difference between those two maneuvers right there. There you go, big fella. Okay, so let's see. No. So we went through our checklist. We got our lateral flexion, disengaging, forward motion, bend to a stop. We added steering in with this guy here, and now we are working on our backup, we've. So if we were to review, with this fella here, we've gone through the first 4 fundamentals. Oh. So if we were to review with this guy here, we've gone through our first 4 fundamentals of bending the neck, moving the hip, bending to a stop, forward motion. We've added in our steering step with some figure eights this time and some 4-leaf clover exercise. And then we started, and then we checked on his backup, because we've worked on his backup before and he looks pretty good there. So, and then we added in some lateral motion today. First, we looked at the progression of getting to the side pass. First on the wall with 1 step, then carrying it in with the trot with multiple steps. And then once you have your backup and your side pass together and you're able to stop the forward motion and move it sideways, then we can work on the side pass across the middle of the arena. And then we've shown once, okay. So we've worked on we checked his backup, and then we went to show you the process of side pass for one step on the rail and then multiple steps by carrying in momentum. And then we talked a little bit about how you want to add your backup or your stop. You want to have that really nice before you try side passing off the rail or without the aid of a fence, because it just creates a nicer finished product with your horse. So I think that's those are some. So I think that's a pretty good spot to conclude tonight. Okay. So we've gone through the checklist with him. We did the first 4 fundamentals. We got him laterally moving with our side pass and our inside leg. We've checked our backup. So we've got relaxation, rhythm, impulsion, and connection and straightness going on there. So now all we need is our collection step. And collection is really nothing more than a downward transition plus an upward transition. So it's slowing and steadying the feet and then asking our horse to engage again. So, that would be it. That's like the whole thing. And, people can make it more complex than that, but as long as your horse is soft and responding to your aids and turnable or controllable at any speed, then you can, in a certain way, consider that collected. But let's go through what most people are looking for, because most people, when they think about collection, they're thinking about putting their horse in a frame. And they haven't gone through all of these preparation steps before they're looking to put to get their horse in a frame. So for instance, he just decided he wanted to ride to the gate here and quit. So we want to address that and have him comfortable right where he is and impulsive. There we go. Before we'd ask him to get collected. Good. So at the walk, what most people think of as collection is really just framing up or flexing the neck like this. And this, though this looks good and it can be very beneficial, and it can be, if your horse can't do this, then it's a lot harder for them to get collected. But this isn't the end all be all. This is just the first step. So the first step is softness and that connection. So the best way to teach collection is actually probably from the trot first. So what we'd do is we'd ask our horse up into the trot on a loose rein here. Pick a point where we want to start to ask them to flex. Maybe here would be good. I'll close my fingers until I feel him slow down, and then I'll add my leg again, and we'll speed back up into the trot. And you see how he's a little resistive there? I'm just gonna keep my hands the same until I feel a change. There we go. Good. Very nice. So coming around this side again, I'll start to close my fingers on the reins, sit back, wait for him to come to the walk. There. Then I'll add my legs and look for that trot. And for a moment, and right there, now it's kind of a tug of war. There. For a moment, he was pretty light. There we go. This guy is used sometimes as a lesson horse, so sometimes it's not very fair to ask him to flex up and get into a frame because he's used to having to protect himself a little more. There we go. But we can find it. Nice frame there. So we could slow to the walk, See if we can keep the frame. Very nice. And then keep our hands the same. Neither give nor take, and add leg. There. Very nice. Then you can toss it all back and let them stretch out again. There we go. Slide down your reins. Get that nice connected feeling. Wait for the feet to slow down. There. Good. I'm going to switch my grip on the reins here. And then we will drive back up into the trot. There we go. So, and you can see how already his demeanor has changed a little bit. Toss the reins back to him. Now, if you were first teaching this to your horse, you may not want to hang on that long to keep that frame. Wait for the energy and then drive it back up. There, did you see how he engaged his hindquarters and lift his back up for that? Good. Toss the reins back. Slide through the center. Slide down these reins. Wait for the feet to slow and steady, and then drive them back up to engage and soften. Say, oh, right there. I'm going to keep on in it until I feel a change. There we go. And then we can let them lengthen out again. Then slide down those reins. Steady the feet. Wait for them to slow. There, and then drive up. There we go. And you see how he's getting a little taller now as he travels. Good. Loosen that back up. Slow. Drive. There we go. So at first your horse understands just a change of gait more easily than anything. Then he can start to understand a change of speed. So a change of gait is you want to go all the way to the walk and then keep your hands the same and drive back up into the trot. Good. Then we'll let them lengthen out. After a while, you can simply take up. Yeah, there you go. Take up until you feel his feet slow. There. And then I could drive on. Good. So right here, he feels a little heavy to me. I'm going to go back and check our back up again. So there, I just died in the feet, kept my hands the same, and lo and behold, he felt like he needed to lean on me for a second. So that's, again, our backup exercise. If you feel like you're missing something there, go back and work on that foundation piece that you've developed. So for instance, here, hands, no legs, draw on, and see how long it takes to back up. Ooh, there. Yeah, got to organize yourself a little, big fella. Good. And then trot out again. And then draw. And that was a little lighter. Good. Trot. Let's reverse, big boy. There we go. Right here, he feels a little distracted. So we might just ride in for a small circle. That way we get his attention back and get that straightness again. So you can see how first we use these exercises as a system for training, but after a while they start to become like brushes in our toolbox. We can start to use the exercises when they most suit us. There we go. Then check, can we draw? And what happens? There we go. Nicer. Good. And can we trot out? And can we draw? Good. And then trot out. There we go. One thing you want to be careful of is that, especially like a horse like him, when they start dropping their neck down like that, that's great. That's fine, because that's them stretching out. But if they start putting too much weight in your hands, that's them actually kind of, it's like carrying a box of books on your very fingertips. That's them falling forward onto your hands and looking for you to balance them. So that's where that backup comes in. If you're driving, if you're riding along, you can slow the speed, put your legs on, look for the frame. There. That's your collection. And then if you feel like they're running through it, you could die in your seat and wait for them to back off your hands. There you go. So let's just see it. That's nice. Let's just see it at the from the trot here. Maybe we could look for a little softness and frame there, and then look for the canter. And he's a little head up in the air kind of thing. So then we could draw our hands on. And if he feels stiff there, we'll just wait all the way until he stops and backs up and gets soft. There we go. And then we could move out again. Take up our contact. Then start trot. Then slow that trot till it feels better, till it comes to a stop even, that's fine. But then drive it back, there. And then canter. There you go, keep your hands the same and just drive and look for that softness. There. So right now, there we go, dying my seat. Up, and he's running through the hands. So this is a good little exercise for him to work on right now, because he needs it. So we could drive up again. And what we could even do is canter off on a loose rein here. There's a wall. So we're canter up on a loose rein. Then we could take up and draw. Nice. And if your horse sticks his head up right here, I'll just hang on until he backs up, because that's not cool. Ride off again. And so let's check our backups. There. And then draw. Good. And then ride off. Short. And then draw. You can spread your hands a little bit. Sometimes that helps them find it. There we go. And draw. Nicer. There you We could go the other direction. Okay. Good. And draw. So that's why your horse needs to pay attention, is because you might ask him to slow down or something. They can't just be running hell for leather towards home. And draw. That's nicer. Right out. And we'll draw. There we go. Cool. Right out again. And then right about here, draw. Good. So then, let's see if we can then take a little contact into the canter with us now. There. That was a lot nicer lift. There we go. So over time, this may be a little premature. And right here, he's trying to get his head above the bit. So if you spread your hands and raise them, there we go, and then drive, that will counteract the giraffe neckiness. Good. Drive again. Okay. Slow the feet. Focus in. Drive again. There's that. Good. Let them lengthen out. Draw him up. And when he gets stiff, add legs. Spread the hands a little. Let him find the frame. There. And then right here he feels again like he's getting a little on the muscle. So I just draw him into the ground. There we go. So really what collection is it's the ability to go forwards, backwards, left, right, up and down, all at the same time. So when your horse is collected, you're able to ask them to walk forward, walk backward, take a step to the right, say back over to the left, then say to the right, then to the left. There you go, and then to the right, then forward, then backward, then forward. There we go. And you see the more you ask your horse to change where they're balanced, the more they're ready to go any which direction. And then you can take that frame with you. That's the essence of collection. And that's how you get a nice little frame on your horse there. So maybe that might be enough to digest for one night. And maybe that might be enough work for Nickle too. I hope you learned something there. Hope you found it interesting. And we'll see you on the flip side.